Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. It's good to be seen, too, as they say. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lee Pelton. I'm president and CEO of the Boston Foundation, and it's a real honor to welcome all of you to the fourth convening in our series on post-secondary pathways for students in Boston. We are just absolutely delighted to be able to co-host this convening with the key partner in this work, the Boston Private Industry Council. At the Boston Foundation, we put equity at the center of everything we do. And we believe that closing the gaps on the region's greatest disparities opens pathways to opportunity, to prosperity, and equitable outcomes. An important aspect of our work focuses on closing disparities in education and career building and development. We want to work with all of you to advance a more rigorous, accessible, equitable system of college and career training pathways for our students in Boston, so they may have, we all hope, they may have the opportunity to achieve their true potential and launch family-sustaining careers in the place they call home. The economic reality in our city and our state is undeniable. Within the next few short years, nearly 3/4 of available jobs will require some form of post-secondary training. But we are not there yet, and it will take a lot of individual, institutional, and collective efforts to meet this reality, to ensure that our young people in Boston have the preparation they need to be competitive and to succeed in the workplace. As we've talked in the previous convenings, this preparation takes multiple forms. Ensuring academic rigor in high school and in post-secondary education is important, but it's not enough. A key ingredient is engaging students in relevant work-based learning throughout their high school and post-secondary journeys. And there are many ways to do this, as you all know: job shadowing, career mentorships, internships, and co-ops. All of these are important, and I would argue with you that all of these are critical. Work-based learning builds the confidence, the skills, and the networks young people need to get ahead in life. And it represents a strong economic case for employers. By focusing on local youth, they are investing in the future of these homegrown workforce. Connecting students with career-building opportunities and doing so at scale takes the work of multiple partners, including our schools, our universities, and our local employers. So our conversation today brings together leaders from all of these sectors. And we'll first hear from Brian Conway, a member of the Boston Foundation's Board of Directors and former chairman of TA Associates. And Brian will lay out for us in clear and evidence-based terms the imperative for this work. Now, I want to say a few words about this guy. He's a friend. He and his wife are among the most generous people I've ever met in my lifetime. And he's very, very devoted to this work, among many other important aspects of human life. And while many of us either drove here, rode our bikes, or hopped on the T, he flew in from California to be here just today. So, Brian, thank you. And he's leaving tonight.
JetBlue, 5:45.
Got in last night, going back today. So, Brian, thank you. Thank you so very much. It's really, really grateful. We will then spend some time in conversations with two panels. The first panel will feature several prominent local employers. The second will feature leadership from the school district and higher education. Neil Sullivan, oh, there he is, Executive Director of the Boston PIC, will close us out. And before we launch our programs, I want to thank Antonio, there you are, Marinova. I only have to just say your first name, everybody knows who you are. Our Associate Vice President for Programs and her Economic Opportunity team for their work to help organize today's event in collaboration with PIC. And of course, Michelle Hinkle. I don't see Michelle. She's probably, but anyway, so she's here in spirit. To thank her and her events and convening teams for all the behind-the-scenes work that makes it possible for TBF to produce convenings like this one, which are central to our core mission. And so now it's my great pleasure, Brian, to turn this over to you. Thank you very much.
I feel a little set up by Lee because he had me right until when he started making remarks about me, so everything else was very credible. As Lee said, my name is Brian Conway. I'm a member of the Boston Foundation board, and I'm also partnering with TBF on college to career work with a group called Stepping Stone, and I think Kelly Glue, our CEO, is here. There's Kelly. It's a Boston-based college success program. So for 40 years, as Lee mentioned, my job was at TA Associates, a growth private equity firm here in Boston, where I had the good fortune to rise to managing partner. But what you don't know is I'm also the descendant of two convicts. Both of my great-great-grandfathers, Francis Conway and James Gilhooly, spent time in jail in Ireland during the Land War of 1881, which was a failed attempt to break the British absentee landlord-tenant farming system. My great-grandfather on my father's side, James Conway, Francis's son, he came to the U.S. and realized the American dream. He was about 20 years old. He worked as a stenographer at a law firm, went to law school at night. He ultimately came back, rose to managing partner of that firm. Jimmy Walker, the mayor of New York, appointed him a judge in New York City, and when he died, the president of New York City School Board and the superintendent of New York City schools attended his funeral. So the American dream, that we're all created equal and we all have the opportunity to build a better life, is fundamental to the United States. And we all know education is key to unlocking the American dream. So a few facts most people who are here in person and online probably already know. So nationally, community college and four-year college grads earn more than high school grads do. Median lifetime earnings for graduates with an associate degree are about $400,000 higher over their lifetime than high school grads, while those with a bachelor's degree earn about $1.2 million more than high school grads. So college grads are more likely to be employed, they have a higher job satisfaction, they live 10 years longer on average, they're more likely to vote, they're more likely to volunteer, they're more likely to be healthy, more likely to donate. So the American dream is alive and well, right? Particularly here in Boston, you know, the city on the hill for academics. That's right. No, it's not right. Unfortunately not. There are two problems, and Lee mentioned this in his remarks. First, not enough Boston Public School students enroll in and then graduate from college. Latest data I saw showed that only 35% of Boston Public High School students graduate with a post-secondary degree, and it's worse for Black and Latinx students. It's about 20% for that group. And as Lee mentioned, we know that right now more than half of the job openings in Boston require at least an associate's degree, and that by 2031, almost 3/4 of the job availabilities will require a post-secondary degree. So second, as Lee mentioned, even those who do graduate from college, there's no guarantee that they'll unlock that American dream and realize the benefits of a college degree. The college to career pathway for first-gen, low-income students in particular needs work. As one first-gen student who was a Stepping Stone scholar and a Metco student told me, everyone said all you had to do was graduate from college, that if you got a college degree, then magic would happen. No one told me I had to prepare for a career. And by the way, she graduated from Harvard. Nationally, first-generation college grads are more likely to be unemployed or underemployed. So 42% of first-gen college graduates in the United States work in jobs that don't require a college degree. 42% of four-year college grads who are first-gen work in jobs that don't require a college degree. Think a Tufts graduate who's working as a hostess in a restaurant where she had worked in high school, and that's a true story, another Stepping Stone scholar. On graduation, first-gen grads earn 72% of what their classmates earn. Part of that is because they're not working in the kind of jobs that pay more for a college grad. And by mid-career, because of the lack of preparation, they earn about half of what their classmates make. And I think you all know this from a Boston Globe article a while back. 3/4 of Boston Public School valedictorians from the classes of 05 through 07 graduated from a four-year college, but then 15 years after high school, 40% of them earn less than $50,000 a year. And I have problems with this number, but the median income in Boston is about $100,000. So less than half of the median income in Boston, and they're valedictorians and college grads. So the good news is there are strategies that can work, and all of you here and all of you online can help. So first, internships. According to the Harvard Project on Workforce, internships are highly correlated with both job offers and with job success. The people here today can help by providing paid internships. Second, social capital. This was an eye-opener for me. Professor Raj Chetty, who's done a lot of work on social and economic mobility. Raj Chetty found that social capital is more highly correlated with economic and social mobility than education is. So we think education is the key to unlocking the American dream, but social capital matters more. At Stepping Stone, we're building near-peer and senior industry mentors to help build those first-gen students' social capital and professional networks. And we've also developed a curriculum to develop the scholars' social capital and networking skills. Third, so first, internships. Second, social capital. Third, career prep. Turns out many first-gen students either don't have access to or don't take advantage of basic career prep. Think mock interviews, industry exploration, industry advice. And there's research that shows this should start as early as middle school. So setting expectations, back to that example I gave you before, so it's not just getting a degree, but using that degree to get the benefits of your post-high school education. As Lee mentioned, the Boston Private Industry Council does a lot of work with Boston high school students and others on career prep. At Stepping Stone, what we've done is we're trying to change the narrative from college success, meaning graduation, to college to career. And we're starting in middle school and we're continuing through college. So one of the reasons to start early is because there's a strong correlation between both the college you choose and also the major you choose and what your lifetime earnings are. So our hope is that this discussion, this series, and the contacts made this morning are productive as we're all working for increasing opportunity for all students. So let me know if you need an introduction. Your company needs an introduction to Stepping Stone. Kelly's right over there. So thanks very much for your attention. And now I'd like to welcome Jimmy Wyman, Director of Career Services at the Private Industry Council, so we can start the first panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. My panelists for the employers, Candace, David, and Laura. I'd love to have them. So as you're coming up, my name is Jimmy Wyman. I'm the Career Services Director here at the Boston PIC, and I'm excited to be your moderator today. And I know we have a short amount of time, so I just want to jump right in with our panelists. And we'll start by just obviously introduce yourself, but also while you're doing that, talk about your company and how they're committed and why they engage in work-based learning for our young. So Candace, I'll just start with you.
Jump in,
Yeah.
sure. Hello, everyone. Candace Burns, Director of Inclusion and Workforce Development, and I always love to start the conversation by saying, I am born and raised Boston girl. And so this work is, it has not only been an opportunity to be blessed to have a career in it, but it really is who I am as an individual in terms of the increasing access and reducing barriers. So back in 2007, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute decided to take a more strategic approach to ensuring access and reducing barriers to careers in healthcare. And they were intentional about ensuring that this Office of Workforce Development was part of the human resources team, because we are about building individuals up and hopefully establishing them into careers at Dana-Farber. One of the key initiatives in this work is our comprehensive student training program. It's a year-round program, paid internships, college and career readiness, professional development workshops, family engagement, and most importantly, alumni engagement. So that's a little bit about our program.
Awesome.
We'll get into more of it,
for sure.
absolutely.
Thank you. David, go.
Yeah, thank you. My name is David Hutchinson, the Executive Director of the Tremco Rising Stars program. I came up via New York, so do not boo me at any point today.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. So I took a unique approach to this. I found that during COVID, that there was a void in what we were doing as far as connecting with our young people within the construction industry. How do we change the messaging? How do we get them enthusiastic about careers and remove some of the stigma associated with it? So starting in Brooklyn, then Newark, then Boston, then Cleveland, then Charlotte, we found a way to break through to juniors, seniors in high school and in the past and figure out how do we get them excited about it and how does our company engage the industry. And one of the things I will speak on is collaboration. This is not just our company doing it. Our company happens to be the tip of the spear, but to make this work, the siloed approach of workforce development has to kind of come down. So a lot of what my enthusiasm and passion comes through is being on the front lines, being there, meeting them, understanding what it comes to be a career-ready individual. And I can appreciate the college pathway, but that isn't for everyone. So how do we make sure that there's individuals that do not go that path that still feel like they have a strong future and excited about it? So I'm really excited to be here because this is a passion project.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maura Quinn. I work for Liberty Mutual, and I've been there since I graduated college, so going on 24 years now, when many of these programs did not exist. But we did have one, and that was a partnership that was started 51 years ago now with Charlestown High School. Our CEO at the time believed in workforce development and supporting higher graduation rates for Boston Public Schools. And at the time, Charlestown needed the most support. And so we've had this partnership now for 51 years. My team is heavily involved with our community investments function, which runs out of our Liberty Mutual Foundation, focused on education in K through 12. And so I lead a team focused on early careers recruitings and programs. So that starts with high school and goes all the way through our PhD hiring.
So thank you for sharing a little bit about what you do. The next question is going to talk a little bit about why. Like, obviously, there's ebbs and flows with funding and the economy, and yet through and through, your company has stuck with it, right? And so why is it important for Dana-Farber? Why is it important for Tremco? Why does Liberty Mutual continue to invest in, right? Because it's not just the student wages, right? But it's also staff time, right? And projects that they have to take away from their other work. So talk a little bit about why your company does it and why is it important?
For me, I can be very persistent. This is not something our company was doing before I brought this to them. But when you start talking about the brain drain, workforce shortages, there are very tangible reasons why a company in this industry would get invested in our young people being excited about this. But in addition to that, I think being stewards in the communities we operate in is something that our company has attached themselves to, that we can be a generational workforce group if we do this the right way. And when you look back on the graduates and the success stories, it starts to make sense for everybody in the room. Like, this is something that's productive. And I like to say I'm not in the placement business, I'm in the retention business, right? If I place 500 and 40 are still there, did we do a good job? Probably not, right? So what are we doing to make sure that for both sides that we're excited about that? And I think that's why my company got attached to this is we're bringing up the next generation of leaders by doing this the right way. We're not just trying to fill a spot. And when you start viewing it through that lens, it's much easier to invest time and people and money because we're not retraining people. We're getting people in place and we're watching them grow through it. So long-winded way of saying, I think when you see the tangible results after time, it gets much easier to say we can keep reinvesting in this. And my time is minimal compared to what we can do to help young people see their futures grow. And I think, again, those stories do it well, and I think now our company is really invested in continuing it moving forward.
I say at Dana-Farber, we want to be an employer of choice, right? And we also recognize the fact that individuals from historically marginalized communities, underrepresented populations in medicine, might not necessarily see the opportunities at Dana-Farber. They might not even have access to the internship experiences at Dana-Farber. Some of them might not even know what a Dana-Farber is, by the way. We are a leading cancer hospital in patient care and research, and then hopefully in a few years we will have the first inpatient hospital in serving strictly cancer in Boston. But many of the individuals that we are serving from our Boston Public Schools, again, might not know what a Dana-Farber is. So this work that we do, the team that I have and blessed to manage, we meet individuals where they are at. We go into those schools. We are telling them about who Dana-Farber is, why we want them there, why they belong there, and then creating experiences that are going to develop them, and we will follow them from high school through college to ultimate employment at Dana-Farber and or beyond.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think for Liberty, our whole mission is, we help people embrace today and confidently pursue tomorrow. Creating talent pipelines is the biggest investment that we can make, essentially, to be a profitable organization, a best place to work, and a most trusted global brand. Our internships for the past 18 years have essentially been the best source of talent in the organization for any entry-level area. And so we continue to invest in high school programs specifically because we need to spread the word about the jobs that exist in the insurance industry and how quickly those jobs are changing. We have to get the workforce ready for the roles that will exist in 10 years, but we don't exactly know what those are now. And that's why working in partnership with PIC, with the Boston Public School System, with the financial literacy program that Ann Clark is running, that helps us expand the talent pools that will become accessible to us as a future employer. And I'll tell you, competing as a Boston-based insurance company across college campuses or community colleges, 4-year degrees, even apprenticeship programs, which we partner with the chamber on the Mass Apprenticeship Program. Most students don't really think about wanting to go work in insurance because they think that's walking, door to door selling a policy. Well, 70% of the roles that we recruit into are analytical or technical by nature, right? And so these programs help us get the word out. And we start as early as high school, and our sweet spot in college is the first and second year, actually.
The only thing I was going to say is, oftentimes people hear about the work that we're doing, like, isn't that so nice? It's a great, and it is. It's a wonderful job. For Dana-Farber, this is not a nice to do. And for, I think, all of our organizations, it's a must do, right? In order for us to be able to elevate the care that we give, at least, and speaking in healthcare terms, we've got to have an employee base that represents the diversity of patients that we're serving. So this is really our strategic approach to ensuring that we have, a competitive edge all around.
I appreciate that because I think it's really important to understand that it's not just a nice to have. So, you're doing great work, good for you, but there's more to it, and I appreciate you all naming that. Maura, I want to start this one with you because you had mentioned, high school and college. Are there certain prerequisites that students must have or that you look for, whether it's high school or college? And obviously other folks can jump in, but you had just mentioned how do we get this word out? So what are you looking for in your interns?
Sure. So from a high school perspective, we hire 20 internal students for the summer, and then they can stay on during the school year. And then an additional 100 we sponsor to go into local community business orgs. And the Boston PIC does that hiring for us, so thank you to that team. But essentially, when we're thinking about hiring a high school student, it's more for us to help with their own preparation. And so as long as they have some basic communication skills, they show a willingness and an eagerness to learn something new, to build on some new skills, and they can figure out the right balance between managing a schedule in an office setting and their responsibilities at home and with school, they're going to make a good hire for us from the high school lens. In the college space, we just expect a higher proficiency with those things. Brian, you mentioned majors, right? At Liberty, other than our technical roles that we require very specific, programming languages or statistical knowledge, we'll hire across a broad spectrum of majors. If you're a psychology major, you could do great in our claims organization because you have to have some pretty difficult conversations with folks. The other thing that I want to point out, and this has been since 2017, you don't need a college degree to come work in one of our entry-level programs. Because of the training that we offer individuals, most of our roles don't require a 4-year degree. In our Tech Start program, we hire from boot camps and code schools, certificate programs. We hire through apprenticeships. It creates much more access and opportunity for individuals, and we know that we may have to do a little more to support their educational journey on the job, but that's okay because it allows us to cast a much broader network for talent. And I think the biggest thing about that is we know that not everybody can afford higher education. And we don't want people to lose access and to lose those opportunities for these amazing career paths just because they couldn't afford that 4-year degree.
Can I build up that? Yeah, so I think one of the things she said was really important is within our industry, it's being honest with ourselves of what are the requirements of this job, really. Like we put a lot of things on a job description on requirements, but is that what's really necessary to get started tomorrow? In industry, if we keep limiting what's in there, we're all going to be fighting over the same 2 people that just jump back and forth from jobs, right? So can we build it up? If anyone's a baseball fan, can we create farm systems where we're actually developing talent as opposed to trying to go after the top prize every time? As a Yankees fan, it has not worked out for us. All right? So what we try and do is really assess the individual and also have them be really critically thinking about what their skills are. When I start the program, I ask them, like, what do you want to do? And half the room says engineer. I say, who likes math? All the hands go down. Like, all right, you're probably not going to be an engineer, right? And that's okay. But the ability to self-assess and figure out what their passions are is critical to us, right? Enthusiasm is a fleeting quality, right? Can we stoke that enthusiasm? Can they keep that enthusiasm up for an entire year or just be excited for one day and then trail off? Because when I talk to that employer, it's the same thing is going to happen in the job, right? So it's a lot of that stuff where talk to employers, talk to our collaborators. What is the necessary thing for them to start tomorrow, and then can we build to that? So when we assess, that is a key factor for us.
And what are you seeing as what are they saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, yeah, we found the best person. It's like, well, yeah, because you limited what you really needed, and then you found the person that was most eager for the job. And being most eager for the job is literally 80% of the battle, right? Everyone shows up to a job they don't like at one point in life, but can you power through that? Can you figure out your passion within that? And we have examples of young people that love photography, but they're a glazer, but now they're taking project photos, right? Can we have the passions meet when they're doing something that is allowing them to be skilled? And so we try and, again, not extinguish some of those passions while they're starting to get skills, but stoke them a little bit more and allow them to develop within the industry.
Kim, you asked about requirements, and at Dana-Farber, we have a partnership model. So we partner with 3 Boston public schools and 2 community-based organizations. One of the primary reasons was the logistics in terms of getting to our Longwood campus. So over the summer, we go out and we talk to the students about the opportunities in healthcare, that you can have just about an interest in anything and find a position in healthcare, so that when the summer comes, we're hiring 60 students, placing them in over 50 different departments to get exposure. Now, during the academic year, we are narrowing down to now 30 students, 25 to 30 students that really have demonstrated that interest. After a successful summer, they have said, you know what, I kind of like this healthcare thing. And then we're going to, again, continue to follow them and track them until hopefully college success and ultimately employment.
So besides the location in the school, what is your staff looking for?
I love that. So we're not looking for the straight A student
Yeah.
because we feel like there's a lot of opportunities for those straight A's. Straight F's, you better be in our summer school. Right, and so we're looking for those hidden gems, and that's why the relationship with our career specialists in the schools, the school administrators, is really important because we want to get their input and have them encourage students that might not see in them what others see in them to go after our opportunities, right? And so, we are looking for that well-rounded individual, someone that can commit to the requirements of our program. In the summer, it's 7 weeks, 30 hours a week, attending workshops, good attendance. If you're going to school, then most likely you'll show up at work, right? And so we look at attendance records as well. But, if someone is experiencing some issues with their attendance, let us know, put it on the application, and we're gonna have that conversation. I remember a few years ago, someone who's now an employee with us started in our program as a high school student, and his attendance was atrocious. It really was. but after a conversation, you got to understand, and now he's working for our IT department.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Thank you. On that theme, right, what I want you to talk about, boast about yourself right now. Take a minute. What's a success that you have seen through the work-based learning opportunities that you have provided? So talk, I'm sure there's many, and we can be here all day, but what's a success that you want to share with this group?
She would be terrified that I'm bringing your name up, but Diana Ram was a graduate of our program a couple years ago. And the reason I like this story is because it involves many parts and pieces. We went to a job site visit with a company, local WT Rich, multiple times. She's the quietest person on the planet, but very diligent about her work, and you could always see there was a spark there. We got her an internship. She didn't want to show up the first day, so I had to take a train on the Amtrak up to Boston and sit down and talk with her. She was nervous. She was going to be one of the young females on the job site. She didn't know what that looked like, and that's a lot of intimidation, right? And there's a lot of fear of success with this young people group, right? They get this close to the finish line, and then they whoa, it's a lot happening right now, right? So getting over that ridge. She interned all summer. This year, they created a 2-year pathway program for her, where she'll get to do 6 months in each different position and choose what her pathway is going to be afterwards, right? That's what a real partnership is being the exposure piece, being the excitement piece, being the internship, being the development piece, all of that, right? And that worked because they trusted that the individual I brought to them was going to do what they expected, right? So if we can be the filter for the industry, and they don't get hired from us, but we're putting good people into the workforce, that's ultimately success for me. That's the stuff that excites me when I can go to that job site and see an individual that 6 months ago was afraid. She was working at Fenway, and that was going to be her career, right? And now she's a project engineer for a company, right? So that's the stuff that gets me up, gets me on the 5 a.m. train, gets me going because I'm excited about it.
One, you're going to hear from one of our success stories in a few minutes, so I'm not going to steal Fernando's fire. But totally a success story, but we're really just proud of the fact. And I say we because many of my members of my team, they tell me, don't shout us out, but I'm shouting out the team because this work is done by committed individuals. Roger is in the room, Gabby's over there, Ruby. But I say all that to say that we've had, since the establishment of the Workforce Development Office, 80 plus individuals that started as high school students and ultimately became full-time employees at Dana-Farber. Excited, yes, about that, thank you. And what really gets me going is when you see them as managers now bringing the next generation along, right? And that's what we also encourage. We also keep track of our alumni and try to get their feedback. And our most recent survey reported that 100% of the individuals that participated that responded at least to the alumni survey found that their experience within the program prepared them for the workforce, just as you were saying, right? 61% are working in careers in healthcare-related careers, which is awesome. And I had to write this down. And 80% said participating in the program influenced their decision to pursue a career in healthcare. So those are the successes that we want to hear about. But yes, the real stories are the individuals that you get to see grow, mature, attend weddings, and all of that good stuff. Baby showers, most recently.
Yeah, absolutely. More.
Yeah, and I think the same goes for Liberty. I think one of the biggest things is the increased graduation rates from Charlestown High School, converting several of the interns over the years into the high school interns into our college internship program, and then essentially becoming full-time employees. The uniqueness of a 51-year legacy. It's the longest continual school business partnership in the Boston community, so we're very proud of that. And one other, if you want a little humble brag, that hopefully many employers in the room will start to think about getting invested in, is Boston College just started a 2-year degree program through the extension of Messina College. I actually helped build that program over the last 3 years. With the support of Liberty and a commitment to hiring the first 5 interns out of the second-year class. These students, the majority, there's 110 students, the majority come from Boston Public High Schools, and the school is committed to offering a living education with an internship component, and students will not graduate with more than $5,000 in debt. And if they maintain a 3.4 GPA, they're able to transfer to any 4-year college, including Boston College. So through that program, we're offering internships, apprenticeships, and ideally full-time opportunities then. So that's probably what I'm most proud of.
So we're going to transition a little bit. We've been at kind of the individual level, and now I want us to think bigger, right? We've talked about how each of your companies are committed to this work, but what do we need to do as a community, right? As a city, as a network, to scale this, right? As Brian alluded to, how do we get more students work-based learning opportunities? What needs to happen from your perspective around scaling this so that more students have more opportunities to be these success stories that you've all talked about? I don't know who wants to take that first one.
I think this one is focused on the collaboration between educational institutions, industry, and quite honestly, government to create the ecosystem. I mean, I also serve as the vice chair on the board for the National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's the largest member association of its kind, focused specifically on college educated. And our focus now is looking at the current administration and the opportunities for workforce development programs that they're actually talking about, right? And expanding upon apprenticeships and areas to engage young adults in the future of work and what new jobs will look like. So I do think that that's going to be a huge opportunity for us to keep these conversations going so that we can create more opportunities like a Messina College. We've just started an insurance institute at UMass Amherst, and I mentioned that we have to expand that to UMass Boston and UMass Lowell. UMass Boston being one of our largest hiring schools this year with more than 40 hires. So it's so it's partnerships that are going to make this create more accessibility and opportunity for students.
For me, we've developed pathway programs where it's direct relationships with whether it's unions or certain companies where from pre-apprentice to apprentice to hiring, we have the direct path to it. And the more groups that are involved with things like that, the easier the access is. Because the worst thing we can do in this industry is to put that carrot out there, get individuals excited, and the opportunity is not waiting at the other end of it, right? We want to make sure that there is a seamless transition from the high school to the training that's required to be career ready to that employment. That gap is a death sentence when it comes to keeping young people engaged, right? So for me, it is the relationships we have with the high schools being dialed in to their students, being dialed in to what their needs are, so we're presenting the right individuals to us, and then having that back end, that two-sided workforce, right, where we're bringing them young talent. Are they willing to invest their time and investment into those young people? And for me, the more that the collaboration happens, because we said that's a key word, the easier it gets, because young people see the success stories, and that's the easiest selling point, is someone their age telling them how it worked for them, right? We can sell it up here, but I don't see many very young people in this room, right? So, myself included, right? So for us, though, our success stories are the ones that sell the success stories. So the better we do that, the better we promote that, the more opportunity we're going to provide.
And I totally agree with what both of you said. And we also, as I look out, and hopefully there are employers in this room, it could be daunting to think about the idea of bringing in interns, right? And it doesn't have to be, Again, I think about Boston and the Boston and surrounding areas, and how many employers that we have. And, yes, we hire 60, but it can start with just one individual. It doesn't have to start by trying to convince your whole organization to do this. Start with a department. Get a champion, and support that champion in helping them to build this out. But again, I think oftentimes from an employer perspective, we think, oh my gosh, that's too much to take on. It doesn't have to be too much to take on if you start small and grow it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't always
Right.
40 to 60 students
That's
at
right.
Dana-Farber,
No.
right?
No.
So before I open it up to questions, I have one last question for the panelists, but in the audience, if you have any questions, you can begin writing them down, and we'll open it up after this last question. But coming up after our student speaker is a practitioner panel, right, where we have school district personnel, school leaders, both at the high school and higher ed. And with that said, from the employer perspective, what's something that you want them to know about as they're either preparing their students or trying to engage in work-based learning or trying to bring employers into their schools? What should they know about this work and about what you do?
So, I can't even, gosh, if I got a nickel for every time someone called and said, you want a partner? You want a partner? You want a partner? Ooh, I would be a millionaire. But in any case, exactly. So I say in terms of this question, because I really thought about it, I would lead the conversation with inquiry, with questions, inquiring, what do employers need? What are they looking for? If we start being a little bit more inquisitive about who we're collaborating with, I really think more synergy. There'll be much more alignment in the work that we do in serving who we need to be serving, and that's our young people, right? So, and I say that from both ends. But that would be kind of my biggest advice is, as you're thinking about partnerships, ask the partner, because all partners aren't made to be together, right? And so, that's one thing I would really
Be inquisitive.
want to lead.
And I think that question extends to whatever the industry needs are and the skills of the future that we're sharing, figure out how you build that curricula so that it aligns to employers and opportunities for these students.
I would say I know you're tired. You're doing incredible work. Thank you to do that. Continue to be creative on this. I think that there's a fear of following the kind of prescriptive path to make sure individuals graduate, but when you have employers that are really excited about investing in our young people, do not be afraid to be creative with how you bring that to them. And I think one of the best things that's happened at Madison Park or Boston Day and Evening or even Brockton High School recently is leadership was accepting of something that was not the norm for them, right? Something that was maybe disruptive to the day-to-day, but finding the flexibility within what you do to serve the young people, because ultimately that is both sides' goal, is to get the young people from that high school into a job that they can be proud of and have a living wage. So how do we collectively create that flexibility and creativity where one side does not feel like they're doing all the work, right? And I think it can happen on either side. Sometimes the workforce side, it feels like we're giving a lot, right? So we love to have partners that we feel like it's reciprocal, that we're bringing something to the table and you are as well. So please be mindful of that as you do collaborate, that workforce partners want to feel like they're wanted and feel like they're giving as much as they're getting at that time.
With that, our audience, we had a fantastic panelist, and we got through kind of the different aspects, but I'm sure there's a lot more out there that you're intrigued with, so, or wanting to know more. Questions?
Good.
Yeah, in the back.
Thank you. Great panel so far. Jimmy, appreciate you. Matt Power Cook, Trades Pathway Director for the Boys and Girls Club. And this question is for David. The synergy with what you're doing and what I'm trying to do is amazing. So one of my questions for you is, with under 18 students, how are you getting around liability issues with construction companies? And what type of engagement are you doing to, when they're 14, 15, 16, to get them aware of the construction opportunities that are out there?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so a two-part question. I'll answer the last one first. So I'm a big believer in community-related events. Whether it's an Earth Day event that gets young people out there doing something construction-related, whether it is a back-to-school event where we're getting invaded, because what you find is there may be a 6-year-old that's there that's really excited, but their aunt has someone that really is in this age group that's going to be interested in it, right? We can't be afraid of, again, not just being in the schools. So doing events that get people excited about things you didn't think they'd be excited about. You'd be shocked how many young people were excited to work with their hands. They just didn't know it, right? You'd be shocked to see how many people find themselves to be a leader and project manager, didn't know there's a job in that, right? So we do a lot of events to make sure that the community knows we're there, because what they don't know, they can't apply for or can't get involved in, right? So we want to be as exposure positive as possible with that. From the underage side of things, it is tricky, right? When you're talking about the liability of underage people. So we do a lot of work of job site visits where there is parameters set in place, releases signed, so we can get people out in the workforce. Construction is not learned in the classroom, I can promise you that, right? It is learned when it's 20 degrees out and when it's 80 degrees out, right? So we do a really good job with our collaborative partners of making sure that we have the right legal stuff in place to get them out there and see what it is to be in the workforce. Because I can promise you, seeing architects' drawings and then seeing it in real time is a very eye-opening experience. And people in the construction industry can get really jaded by that and forget how cool it is to see the finished work. And so we try to ignite that and get them out in the workforce and seeing what it is to be projects, and then obviously having the right legal stuff in place to do so.
Other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Somebody will bring you a mic in just a minute.
Hi, I'm actually a co-op student at Northeastern right now, and I just want to know, I know that you guys are doing all this good work, but what are some challenges that you guys might face in this kind of phase? Because I know that this really this good work helps your company as well, but you guys are actually doing this for us, like for me, kind of young students. But yeah, I just want to know what kind of challenges you face and what's your motivation to continue doing this.
Great.
I'm not sure I want to touch that one right now.
I'll touch it.
Thank you.
No issue on that one. We're dealing with young people. That is inherently difficult, right? That there is nothing further than that, right? We're dealing with individuals that are still learning what they want to be. And I lead every session with, I'm expecting more of you than I expected of myself at 18, all right? Because I had 4 years of college to figure it out and then get out in the workforce, right? If you're 18 and I'm telling you to start mapping out your future and planning, doing those things, I'm expecting a lot of you. So that means there's going to be some pitfalls associated with that, right? There's going to be some changed minds. There's going to be, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It's like, wow, we just spent 9 months figuring this out, right? So there's a lot of that. So what keeps you doing is what we all just said, the success stories, right? You do it to see the ones that get across the finish line, not the ones that don't, right? And you take the ones that don't, tough, and that's really tough because you want to see people succeed, but the success stories are kind of the lifeblood of doing work like this.
Oh my goodness. excellent response. And I would totally agree with you. It is. You know, individuals, especially our young students, they're not just bringing themselves, they're bringing so many other dynamics, the managing of family, the managing of school and work, and because they're they're going to school full days and then coming to us afterwards, right? And so it's, again, holding them to high standards because we know what it takes to be successful in this workplace. We know the attitudes you got to have, the showing up on time. So getting young people to just understand some of the basic requirements of being successful in the workplace and getting them to do that.
We'll take one
Can I
last.
just expand
Oh,
on
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Right. So I appreciate you setting that up. I think the other challenge is recognizing, right, we have 5 generations in our workplace right now. And it's not just making sure Gen Z shows up in the appropriate way. It's making sure our boomers are ready to interact or our Xers are ready to interact with Gen Z, right? Because we all have to learn from each other. And we got to figure out a way to make it work for all of us, you know, through training and development opportunities, but also through listening and understanding that there's great value and experiences across the 5 generations to benefit our workplace.
So I'll go one last question. I'll go over here in the front. And obviously the panelists will be here throughout, so feel free to ask them if there's more questions out there.
Good morning, everyone. Luciano Ramos, Roxbury Community College. My quick question is, looking a little bit further down the road, you get them in the door. What do you do to support their career journey, their pathway? Which you know, and how do you help them continue to grow so they get that entry level position? But how do we get them to that life sustaining wage?
So our workforce development office is about serving individuals as young as high school students all the way through unemployed and underemployed adults. So so that is our work, is following individuals once they get in the door. And it's amazing. An example of the story, we had someone through a collaboration, a workforce development collaboration, land a position after a training program. 1 month into his role, he came to us to say, I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if I can do this. And after a month, he was expecting, I guess, to do the job with his eyes closed. And maybe, you know, in college, things caught on like that for him or in other positions, but that's not how it works when you're a clinical research coordinator, but, you know, in your first month. I think, you know, imposter syndrome was setting in and a whole lot of other things. But why I bring this up is because he came to us. He came to our department, you know, sought us out and said, can we have a conversation? I need to talk about something. So all that to say is you are spot on. This is not just a one and done, get them in the door. We have got to, and we always call ourselves high touch. We're high touch relationship building. We build trust because it has to be that way in order to retain this quality talent. Absolutely.
For us, we build in young mentor program, right? And that's built out of emerging professionals that are closer to their age that can get them over those first hurdles, those imposter syndromes, that first argument with the manager, all those things that can be derailing, emotionally stunting when it comes to the workforce. So we try with all of our graduates to pair them with individuals that have done it recently, remember what it's like to be new in a position, and help them over those humps. We can't be with them forever, right? But those first 6 to 12 months, we want to make sure that there's nothing that is just a little bump in the road that becomes a mountain, and that they can get over those immediate hurdles. And our hope is through our development and all those things combined, we have an individual that is better formed to kind of take on the world, because at a certain point, they're going to have to do it themselves. But we can do our part, at least in that initial stage of guiding them through those hurdles.
So with that, please help me in thanking Candace, David, and Maura for your time, for your commitment to our young people, for just being here. So like I said, they'll be here throughout, and if you have more questions, please seek them out. But thank you very much for being here. And now what we've all been waiting for, I think, is to hear from our young person, right? There's no pressure, Fernando. You can come on up here. This is, I think, as people said, why we do what we do is to hear the wonderful stories and the successes that people like yourselves continue with. So thanks for being here, Fernando.
Was this on? Okay, yes, it's on. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. A quote from the late Martin Luther King Jr. Good morning, everyone. My name, thank you. My name is Fernando Medina Jr. I'm currently a sophomore at Northeastern University, majoring in psychology, as well as an intern in Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Shout out to Candace and Rachida. And firstly, I want to start off by giving a huge thank you to Lila for inviting me here, as well as the Boston Pick. Recently, I have been reflecting on my teenage years as I enter a new, scary, yet exciting time in my life as a young adult. Growing up in Mission Hill, hearing the rumbles of the Green Line, the engines of cars rolling past Fuentes Market, and going through Longwood with my mother for her appointments, I only ever saw the receptionist, nurses, and doctors, of course, all very important figures in healthcare. However, I had no idea about the researchers, administrators, and the many, many, many other careers in healthcare that keep the system going. However, that all changed with my very first internship at Brigham and Women's in June of 2019. Looking back, I'm not entirely sure why at that age I chose to work during the summertime, but today I couldn't be more grateful to have made that decision. Since then, I've had the privilege of interning in various departments across Brigham's, Dana-Farber, and Boston Children's Hospital, all while being a student in Fenway High School. With guidance from my former Boston Pick counselor, Miss Beck, the one and only. I don't know if she's here today, but we love her. Miss Beck, shout out to her. Each of these internships has truly been a leap of faith for me, teaching me invaluable lessons along the way. At Brigham's, I learned how to advocate for myself. At Dana-Farber, I learned how to present myself in a professional setting. And at Children's, I learned the importance of teamwork. 3, self-advocacy, professionalism, and teamwork are skills I was fortunate enough to develop before even entering college. These experiences have not only shaped who I am today, but have also shaped and solidified my passion to become a psychologist, someone who helps others navigate life's challenges with empathy, care, and understanding. Whenever, if not all the time, when I talk to my parents about this, they always remind me of the limited opportunities they had growing up. Perhaps if they had been exposed to different industries at a young age, their paths might have been different. This contrast became even more apparent to me during a previous internship when I met a boy around my age who happened to be working in the same department. Of course, I was excited and asked, "Oh, so you're part of the same program like me, right?" He responded, "No, my mom works here and got me an internship." Now, to have an instant connection to an industry from birth is an absolute blessing, 100%. However, the kids who come from underrepresented backgrounds, such as myself, were not afforded such blessings from birth. This is why internships matter. They open doors and give access to students who may not have the connections in these fields, but who have the drive, the passion, and the grit to make a difference. Now, if I had to choose just one standout lesson from all of my internships, it would be the importance of community. The realization that not everyone is your enemy, not everyone is your competition, and not everyone operates with a crabs in a bucket mentality. I learned this through my former supervisor at Brigham's, Jasenia Cortez. We both share similar backgrounds, a culture, and a sense of humor. She was also an alumni of the same program I was in, which made her guidance even more meaningful. Her support reminded me that representation and opportunity both go hand in hand. When we invest in young people from all backgrounds, we, number one, build a workforce in Boston that is truly inclusive, and two, a workforce that is truly reflective of all the communities within this great city. Finally, whether you are a professional opening doors or just a regular attendee chilling and relaxing here, just know that every opportunity, every conversation, and every piece of advice makes a huge, huge difference. I carry with me not only the knowledge I've gained, but also the responsibility to give back, to teach what I've learned, and to support others the way I have been supported. I do not intend to be the only BPS alumni with a robust background in internships, but one of many. Thank you for allowing me to share a bit of my story with you today, and I hope we can all continue to create pathways for the next generation together. Thank you.
I really didn't want to follow this. Thank you so much, Fernando. You're just the best. This is probably the most important part of our program, and we were really lucky to be able to hear about your experience, and really privileged because it centers this whole program in what really matters, which is the experience of young people like yourselves. And I was listening to you, I was thinking, you are very likely one of the success stories that our panelists just talked about that give meaning to their work every day, so really very grateful. Thank you. My name is Antonia Marinova. For those of you who don't know me, I work here. I'm an associate vice president for programs, and I see many of the faces here that have been with us throughout this series, so thank you for continuing to come and talk to us. In the next part of our program, we put together a panel of education leaders who have made it their life's work to connect young people like Fernando to high-quality education and career-building opportunities. We have a teacher, we have a district leader, we have 2 higher education leaders. So for 2 reasons, really, because we want to highlight the range of how this happens from student level supports in the actual high school to citywide and institution-wide strategies, and because we want to reinforce the point that career building opportunities like internships, co-ops, mentorships need to happen along sort of the entire continuum of our education to career pipeline, in high school, maybe starting even in middle school, through college, and into the labor market. So with that, without further ado, if I can invite my education leader panels colleagues to the stage, and I will introduce them as they take their seats.
How are you?
So we have with us here today Ed Clark, who is Assistant Superintendent at Boston Public Schools, and before that, Head of School at Boston Arts Academy. We have Chris Leon, who is a teacher in the Radio and Television CT pathway at East Boston High School. We have Monique Cooper, who is Associate Vice Provost at UMass Boston. And last but not least, Luciano Ramos, who leads the Center for Education for Economic and Social Justice at Roxbury Community College. So thank you all for joining us again this morning. My first question is sort of personalized to each one of you, but after that, I hope we can just feel free to engage in the conversation because none of my other questions are specifically targeted to any of you. But with this first one, I wanted to give our audience an opportunity to learn more about the important work that you and your organizations have undertaken to connect students with opportunities, to build employer partnerships,
And I was thinking, and maybe we start with you and sort of the district's perspective. We know from having been joined in these conversations by BPS colleagues that Mary Skipper, the superintendent, has made college and career pathways and connecting students to these opportunities a top priority, including partnerships with employers. I know you're spearheading a new partnership with the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, so I'm wondering if you can tell us more about that and about just generally how the district is thinking about this work.
Thank you. I'd be happy to talk about that. I just want to start by saying how grateful I am for the invitation and how grateful I am for all of you to sit in a room on a Tuesday morning surrounded by people who are really invested in our young people is really heartening. So thank you for caring about this subject and your work in this area. And I'm happy to speak in the stead, I won't say on behalf, in the stead of the superintendent. I also want to shout out my two colleagues who are in the room. There's Ted Lombardi, who is the secondary superintendent for college and career readiness in the back. Hi, Ted. And Marcia Innes Mitchell, who is the executive director of post-secondary initiatives and partnerships. So I'm speaking for the district, but there are a lot of people that are engaged in this work. So your question was about Superintendent Skipper's commitment and intention as part of her leadership to make connections to the business community a priority. And I want to start by saying how she comes to that passion. We certainly have had exemplary partners in the Boston Public Schools for many years. You just heard from 3 of them. Maura talked about, in particular, Liberty Mutual going back for 51 years. 51 years of commitment to Charlestown High School. So it's not that the ecosystem has not had exemplary partnerships for many, many years, supported by many important partners in the space, including TPF and the PIC who are sponsoring today. It's that in the superintendent's vision, it was not systematic, it was not district-wide, and it was not strategic enough. She herself had come up through the system as what we call an entrepreneurial principal at Tech Boston, who was extremely successful at building relationships with business partners. There's certainly a number of high school principals in particular who are very skilled at that. But there are a lot of schools that don't benefit from that. And to have a really excellent launching pad for all of our students, we need to make sure that all of our schools have that. So together with Jim Rooney and the leadership at the Boston Chamber of Commerce, she did make that a strategic priority. And that includes working together at, if you will, a meta level to define what is excellent practice for all of us. How are we defining clear processes for connecting to businesses? She was consistently hearing that businesses find it too hard to connect with the Boston Public Schools. What are our communication and collaboration norms? And in particular, what are our metrics for success? Not program by program or school by school, but district-wide. So just to shout out a couple ways in which that conversation has been made manifest just in the last couple of years. So Maura already mentioned a district-wide approach to financial literacy. So working with our partners, we have been looking at our approach to financial literacy across the district and also benchmarking it in comparison to other cities. So when we've looked at, for example, New York City's pathway program as opposed to our pathway program, we found they had a much more robust approach to financial literacy across the district K-12, and that became a priority. So we set that as an initiative, and I could talk more about that later, and more as one of many partners we have that. The superintendent has also brought back principal partners as a structure that used to exist for many, many years and then went away during the pandemic. So on April 17th, over 70 schools will be hosting partners from the business community and others many of them for the very first time. So we're trying to build capacity, as I said, across the district and not just make it exemplary program by exemplary program.
Thank you. Chris, let's go to you next and sort of zoom in from the district level to the school. I know you teach at East Boston High, but you also wear a lot of other hats. You oversee the program with the PIC. Tell us more about what you do and how your school supports students.
Sure. When Jimmy asked me to come here today, I figured it'd be like 12 of us in a room. And not this. I'm used to speaking to like 25 kids. I'm standing up. So if I tell you to put your cell phone away. Yeah, so far I'm not used to this at all, this kind of attention.
People pay attention.
Running around the room. So yeah, I do wear a lot of hats. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from East Boston, still live in East Boston. It's an island we can't get off. Been there for 24 years. So I started out as an English teacher, taught English for 15 years, and then the eye started to go, and I said, well, let me try a different path, and I created a design and visual communications pathway, and now I'm the head of the radio and TV pathway. So if you want to come out and set up a shoot in my classroom, please feel free. I would love to have them see this equipment, so put them on the spot. But I also head the dual enrollment program, which right now has over 70 students, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank Masha over there in the corner for all, and Ted, took my thunder, for all of the work behind the scenes they do to give students amazing opportunities at the college level, and our college partners are great. I also I co-supervise the early college program that we partnered with Fisher College. That was a 2-year endeavor. That program is unbelievable. We now have 38 kids, and we're looking to expand to 44 more next year. I also supervised the PIC program, where last year we had 20 students working inside of the school. This year we have 5, but hopefully we're looking to expand on that in the future, because that is an amazing opportunity for kids. And I also run after-school detention for 7th, 8th, and 9th graders.
You nap.
That's a panel for a different day. So anyway, back to the question, which was...
How do you connect your students with internships, with career building?
Sure. So we have great partners here. Shout out to Ruth at Edvestors, right? I'll call them out first and give you an example of what some of my students are doing right now through their organization and through the PIC. So right now, 5 students are getting paid $5,000 each over the course of 9 months to create a documentary about the East Boston Music Initiative, which crosses all schools. I'm the coordinator. They do all the work. And what I do is I give them the equipment. We set up schedules. They do all of the scheduling with the teachers, the administrators, the events. They go out and film, interview, edit, shoot, edit, and then we'll come back and, working with Edvestors, produce a 10-minute documentary about this amazing program that East Boston has never had. I've lived there my entire life. I think I did choir in 2nd grade, and that was about it. And right now we have an amazing music teacher and music teachers across the district that are doing wonderful things, and it's all being documented. So those are the kind of opportunities that are out there. So I think, we always think everything's dire, especially with everything in the news, but I've been there 24 years. We have never had as many opportunities for kids right now. Times were thin, and right now 70 dual enrollment kids, 40 kids in the early college program, these internship opportunities. I could speak also to the in-house internships for the kids, and I'll start out by saying that there's 2 girls from Charlestown whose mother had a stroke and could not work after school because they had to take care of her. But through the PIC program, we were able to get them jobs inside the school day because they take dual enrollment classes, so I'm their dual enrollment teacher. Beautiful. And when they're done with their dual enrollment work, they go work in the schools, in the departments within the school. We have an OSDC department for highly specialized, special needs students, and the girls would go up, and if I could have the head of OSDC come here and tell you how valuable it is to have extra sets of hands to watch the students, to engage with them. It's a win-win for everybody. And the kids were able to work during the school day get a paycheck, and help pay their bills. Help put food on their table. And that is going on inside the school day because they could not work after school because their mom had a stroke.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm getting teary-eyed here, but honestly, like, that is the stuff that's going on with our students and through this program. And that's why I hope that the funding continues. They need it, really do. Yeah.
Incredible, thank you. Just continuing down the line, let's go to you next, Monique. I know that you lead academic and career engagement and success at UMass Boston. You think every day about connecting students to opportunities, about forming employer partnerships. Maybe one with Liberty Mutual was seeded today. We'll see. Where'd you go? So I'm wondering if you can tell us about the work that you're doing and its core priorities.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. So excited to be here, and definitely want to shout out all the partners in the room. And we couldn't do this work without them and without members of the ACES team. So ACES stands for Academic and Career Engagement and Success Center at UMass Boston. We are just about 3 years old. We just launched this initiative which integrated academic advising and career services at the university with the goal of introducing students to career conversations early and often. So we all know, because we're in this room, that career services, internships, work-based learning opportunities are so vital. But the reality is that most universities' career services are opt-in service for students. They don't have to visit us. As much as we want them to visit us and we need them to visit us, they don't have to. And UMass Boston recognized this and embedded career services in the structure of our institution, which really benefits our students on their career development journey. So we have academic and career advisors that are trained in both having the academic advising conversations, but also embedding the career conversations. We are continuing to build a robust employer engagement model with many employers from the city, and really thinking about how our work-based learning opportunities and internships work for our students. I can talk more about that later, but we're really being intentional about building a model that is beneficial. So the majority of our students work full-time, if not part-time, and they commute from various parts of the city. And so we have to take that into account. We are not a residential campus. We don't have some of the benefits when you have students there 24/7. Our students are doing many things. They're wearing as many hats as Chris is in his district. So we have to make it work for them. And so over the last 3.5, 4 years, I'm continuing to build that work and really reimagine career services and employer partnerships for the city and for the university.
Thank you so much. And Luciano, I know you lead the center, and one of its core priorities is to reimagine career and internship services for Roxbury Community College students. Tell us more about what you have in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you for this opportunity to be here today. Thank you to all of our partners. I won't give any particular shout outs, but y'all know who you are. We've been working, doing some great things together across the spectrum. So if I could just really quickly, for those who aren't familiar with Roxbury Community College, we are a small community college located in the heart of Boston, arguably in the heart of what has historically been the heart of Black Boston, right? We were born out of community activism over 50 years ago when community leaders rose up and stopped a highway from cutting through this historic Black neighborhood. We continued to drive that advocacy by pushing state and city leaders to come forth, and if you're going to build anything, build something that added to our community, and RCC was born, right? Since then, over the past 50 years, we've done a great job providing educational opportunity for our students. However, many of those jobs, many of those pathways don't end up in that life-sustaining wage, right? And so the Center for Economic and Social Justice was established about a year ago to try to figure out how do we, through partnerships, through collaboration, work with our students along their individual journey to get them there. Understanding that RCC is only a part of it, right? Many of our degree programs, many of our certificate programs won't get you into that life-sustaining wage. It is just one point along your individual journey. And so we are working through our career services. We're meeting our students where they're at, right? A student body which roughly 60% identify as Black, over 95% identify as a person of color, 75% are first-generation college students, right? And shout out to Fernando. I think he's still there on the other side of the pillar. Because between Fernando's comments and the first panel and Brian and your intro, essentially you laid out the roadmap for how we're going to do this, right? We understand that our students are first-generation college students. They don't have that network. They don't have that mother or that uncle or aunt who's working within this industry, right? And so how do we take it on to be able to help connect students to those experiences, get them the education that they need, build those professional and social networks that can support them and open up doors to opportunity, and create a system that works in a city that is incredibly resource rich, right? There are a lot of brilliant minds in this room. There are a lot of brilliant minds who've been trying to figure this out, right? But the reality of it is that we are still housed in a community that, the lived experience of inequity that exists from the economic lack of opportunity, right? Or lack of economic opportunity, really translates into everyday life to where people in our community live 20 years less than people in the community right across the street from here, right? And so how do we overcome that challenge? And so the way that we're reimagining it is our students do work. We are transforming RCC into essentially a work college, apprenticeship college, where every student who's working is working within their industry. If you have to work, if you want to work, you're starting to build those professional networks from even before when you come through our doors, through partnerships with BPS, right? And so we want to be able to help our students. We provide that wraparound supportive services for our students to help ensure that they're not just meeting their academic and their professional goals, but their personal goals are also being met. And so that's a big part of the work that we're doing.
Awesome, thank you so much. Now, in full honesty, I almost considered not asking my second question, which was about the imperative driving this work, because you've already gotten to a little bit of that, but also because this really, to be honest, is a room that doesn't need a lot of case making about why this room is important.
Exactly.
But since I shared the questions in advance so you can prepare, let me ask it anyway and see if you just have any thoughts you want to add. No pressure. I just want to know what is driving yourselves and your organizations to want to do this work, knowing just how hard it is.
I'll start, if it's okay. So UMass Boston is the only public, now R1 institution in the city of Boston, so yay us. 80% of our students are from Boston and stay in Boston. And so it just makes sense for us to invest in their career readiness skills, in their talent, and really leverage all of the assets that they already have to bring to the table. And so when I talk to employers, I remind them that you're investing in your local economy by hiring UMass Boston students. You are also hiring from an inclusive, culturally responsive lens because our students are representative of the constituents that you likely will serve. So what's driving it is it makes sense, and it was investing in our economy and the well-being and future growth of this great city.
Yeah.
Brian started us out this morning by referencing college matriculation and graduation rates. And so I thank you for that, because I think that's part of why, I know that's part of why we're so focused on it as a district, that we know what Brian said is absolutely true. Boston's not unique in that. In fact, as a nation, if you look at the college and career statistics, they're very sobering. However, within the Boston Public Schools, when we disaggregate the data and look specifically at students who are in college and career pathways, the data is much stronger. The other thing I would say is that my job as an educator, our job as an educator, is always connecting students to the meaning in their education. Fernando talked about that so beautifully already this morning. When students have tangible workplace learning experiences, they come away from that experience connecting what they're learning to their classroom, to what's outside in the world, to, most importantly, who they want to be. Yeah. And this work helps our students live choice-based lives, which is what we're all about. I noticed a little bit on the first panel, there was a little bit of a skittishness about adolescence. We could give you, it is a challenging time, but it's also a great time of great opportunity, right? This is developmentally a time when students begin to think about, who am I, right? And if you can provide these kinds of transformational experiences at that time in their life that's transformational, you can change a lot for that young person. And I think we saw on the panel that preceded us, those successes are successes that energize not only the young person who's experiencing the success, but everyone involved in that. And I think that's what drives our work.
We talked a little bit about what makes it so hard, adolescence being just one factor. Is there anything else any of you want to share about, like, what's the major challenge or barrier that stands in your way? What are you grappling with? Where do you think we still have the most work to do in making this happen and making it happen at scale?
Okay, so education's like a relay race, right, where we're taking the kids and passing them on from one institution to the other. We nurture them through high school. We hope that we're able to give them off to colleges that have the right people in place. But post-COVID, I think kids need more emotional support and academic support than ever. Sometimes there's a breakdown, I think, with the kids in their long-term goals because they cannot see the forest through the trees, right? I get kids who say, I want to be a nurse, but don't understand that there are thousands of people that work in a hospital, right? And you could go and major in health administration, do other things, right? And then if they don't get into nursing school, they get discouraged and they kind of fall apart. Also, financially, like I had a kid who got into Emerson, right? He's my best photography student. And I think Lee is Emerson?
Yeah.
Right? So we'll talk after. So he got a decent scholarship, right? But he still has to pay $25,000 out of pocket, right? And we don't get a lot of kids at Emerson. This was a major accomplishment for him. It's his dream school. And for him, it may not be a reality because the family is not going to be able to take on that kind of debt. The student they're petrified of taking out loans. I mean, we've all taken out loans. We take out loans for cars, but for some reason, my students are very afraid of it. You hopefully say, well, maybe you go to Bunker Hill and you transfer over, and there's all these other ways. But there could be a breakdown from the time I pass them along to the colleges, things that happen in the school, and whether there's enough support over that next 4 or 5 years to get through. Our enrollment rate has gone down to 31% from 51%. So 2017 was 51%, now it's 31%. Again, that's probably COVID related. And the graduation rate is even lower for my school. I see kids, I live in East Boston, I see kids all the time, they wait on me at the convenience stores. And they say, you in school? They say, well, I went for 2 years and I left. And it happens all over the place, right? Because it's a marathon and they sprint. So I do believe that having a better system in place, and we're really all working toward that, to get those kids from me to you and through the finish line, then they can make it. Because we've had a lot of success stories too. I see the kids who are, a girl the other day said she's a vet nurse, right? And so they can do it, but they do need supports from all different angles.
Yeah, very much so.
So I think, as you just outlined, one of the challenges is really understanding our students and their lived experience right now and the challenges that they face. The superintendent were here, she would make the point that, and I so appreciate how much everyone who talked about internships said paid internships.
Yes.
For our students, that's really important. The superintendent would say they have choices, an internship or working at Dunkin'. For some of them, they need the money, so they might be forced into working in a Dunkin'. So we need to provide internships that pay better than Dunkin'. And then also to your point, as we're designing pathways and looking at district standard of what's an exemplary pathway, we're looking for pathways where students have multiple entries and multiple exits, meaning they can join a pathway, do 2 years, as you were referencing, and get a certain level of job, and then understand that if they did more education, they could get a better job, because our students need those pathways where they can enter and exit at various points, and then with more education or workplace experience have greater opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's about having that flexibility within your design.
Can I just piggyback off of that? Because this
Sure, and then we'll
internship
go.
conversation, yes. No, you want to go?
By all
Okay,
means,
my
please.
brain is going to
No, you
go.
go.
Shoo.
That's fine.
So this internship conversation is really important, and yes, the paid internship is absolutely necessary, but also being creative about when we're offering opportunities, that it's not just the summertime, that maybe we establish more of a co-op model. At UMass Boston, we have an on-campus apprenticeship program that offers experiential learning and career readiness skills. So just not thinking about just the summer paid internship is really important for us, for our students, because to convince them to leave Duncan for a 6-week internship program with no guarantee for conversion after that is a very hard sell for our students. But if campus into partnerships that work with them in their schedules, that's a much more easier sell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I agree with everything, right? And that's a bit of what we're building at RCC too, is this apprenticeship work model. We don't want students participating in an activity unless they're getting paid for it, because there is a tremendous amount of opportunity cost for our students. And so how do we remove those opportunity costs? You know, for me, the biggest challenge actually is time, right? There's a sense of urgency. For every 6 months, every year that it takes to put something in place, we just missed somebody, right? And right now we have plenty of exceptions to the rule, plenty of the individual success stories, but how do we actually make it the rule? How do we change the system, right? And again, there's a lot of great people doing great work here. How do we do a better job working together quickly, right? Because there has to be this sense of urgency. It's gone too long within our communities where students are falling through the cracks within the system, and they stop going to school because they didn't get the support that they needed at that moment in time, right? And so how do we figure that system out?
I want to talk about scale next, and I know our employer panel touched on that. And I'm not a panelist at the moment, but I will volunteer the opinion that I think an important goal for our institutional and our collective efforts should be that this builds towards something more than just a handful of time-bound internships.
Exactly,
right? How
right.
do we get to a place where most of our students, all of our students, graduate with solid career building, resume building experiences, ready to enter the job market in high demand, high trajectory jobs? Like, what do we do? What policies, practices, partnerships do we consider so that this becomes almost an expectation?
So I was fortunate to go out to LA, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, and see how their pathway system worked. And when I went to a couple of the schools, and they showed me the partner list. There are hundreds of partners that follow these kids from middle school. Like a kid could take a path, kid want to be a lawyer, they could follow a path. There is a trajectory to get them into UCLA Law School and then end up in a firm. That doesn't happen here in Boston. It's a small place, and we have the resources here. I think you need big, like Liberty Mutual being a 51-year partner. That is unbelievable. We need more of that. Like, we need it from top down too. Like, you need a 5 to 10 year commitment from some of the businesses in the area to say, we are going to fund these kids through X, right? Use me as a human resource department. I know the skills of these kids. We can filter them and give you solid interns with great skill sets that can do the job probably for cheaper than if you went out and tried to hire off of Indeed. So I truly believe that, and I don't think they don't see that at the ground level that I do. I could send my photographer Gary out right now on a shoot at a wedding, and he would be as good as a $3,000 photographer. They do have skills. I don't, and I'm from here, and I have some partnerships, but again, I'm on the island. I need more paths to partners that will take my kids.
Yeah.
And then hand that baton off, right? Hand the kid off. So I think that's important, right? Top down.
I would echo that. I mean, it's the warm handoff. I think we can be better coordinated and aligned with that. More structured programming based by cohort that we partner with our community-based organizations, like the PIC, like Mass BioEd, because we can't do it ourselves. Our department is quite small given the size of our institution, so we rely on the resources from our community partners to help us deliver the career readiness skills and workshops and attentiveness that our student needs. So that's how we try to scale it, but more of that is needed, more coordinated efforts, more warm handoffs between the community college and the university of 4 years. So I think we can do that if we get the right people in the room and really dig our heels in and figure it out. And it's happening in pockets of excellence, so I will say that it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think it's an embracing of all of our strengths, right? Taking that asset-based approach. As we started to reimagine what career services could look like at RCC, the first thing we did was like, okay, who's already doing this work, right? And we actually reached out to Mass Hire, and Mass Hire now has a presence on our campus where they're doing one-on-one coaching. We looked at systems that we had adopted or created ourselves, and it was a duplication of effort, right? So we eliminated some of those systems and said, okay, we're going to actually adopt what is going on at the state or at the local level. And so how do we have those conversations to say, okay, what does this full ecosystem look like? And how do we develop a plan to where we can work more effectively together so that way, we do have, we have a tremendous broadcast media program actually at RCC with great internships, and we're creating student jobs around that, right? And so that's one of those things, if you could hop on the blue line, go to Downtown Crossing, then come on down on the orange, they could be there immediately and get off the island, right? So,
I certainly agree. It's about having more Liberty Mutuals in the world and collaboration and warm handouts, warm handoffs. I think for us, in terms of thinking about scale, we also think about the wide range of learners in the Boston Public Schools and thinking about which of our students have access to pathways. We do not have enough opportunities for multi-language learners.
mm-hmm.
We do not have enough opportunities with students with disabilities. They are well represented in our student population, and if we're going to get to scale, we need to have opportunities for the wide range of learners that we have in the Boston Public Schools.
That's right. Thank you. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I do want to ask you one last closing question before we turn to the audience. Because we did ask it of our employer partners, and I think it's only fair to give you the opportunity. If you wanted to share one thing that you think the employers in the room, whether the panelists or we have 20 or 25 people from other local companies that hire young people in the city, what advice do you have for them? What do you wish they knew or did better or did differently or did more of that would be helpful to your efforts? By all means.
Asset-based hiring, inclusive hiring, holistic hiring, whatever term you want to use that looks beyond a major, beyond a GPA, beyond whether they had previous work experience or not, really looking at all of the cultural wealth and assets that our students bring to the table and investing in them, investing in mentorship programs at your institution, working really closely with our university and community partners to support the students. Is one thing that I think is so important for our employer partners to continue to do, because there are some that are doing it really well, and then just expand upon that.
Yeah, I would echo that. And as we've been developing these partnerships at RCC, the way that we look at this is first and foremost, and I kind of laid the groundwork for this in the conversation, right? Like, what are you doing to support the employees you currently have? Right? How do we keep them in place? We're working with a couple employers right now, and our approach is kind of like really a four-pronged approach. One, let's start with your current employees who could potentially get upskilled, who could potentially get on this career journey, who aren't in the highest level of the career that they would like to be in. Then let's look at people who are current RCC students who could kind of fit into some of those opportunities that you actually have, right? And so looking at this as a journey that we want to partner on together and figure that piece out, and just being very, very intentional about that. We're also doing the exact same thing with BPS. We're doing the same thing with the local school districts to figure out how can we reach kids younger, and understand that we're going to be here with them, not just for the 2 or 4 years that it takes for them to get through RCC, but even beyond that, and after they leave, and us advocating together. So how can employers truly be a partner with institutions of higher ed, with the K-12 system, in order to understand that this is a longer journey? It's a lot easier to retain somebody than it is to hire new, right? And it's a lot more cost efficient from a business standpoint, right? So let's turn around and take some of those efficiencies and put them into investing in our people.
I think maybe employers can reach down to the ground level with us and try to use us as resources to see how we can better prepare the kids for jobs out there. I think job shadowing, it doesn't happen as much as it used to. I think job shadowing was a big part of how kids chose careers, and I don't think that happens at scale like it should. If kids, I remember I took kids to one location for a possible internship several years ago, and then when they see the facility, something changes in them and you can actually physically see it. Like, oh my God, I could work here. Oh my God, that's a sleep pod? Like, like wow, I could take a nap in the middle of the day. So they're missing that. They don't see it. They don't see inside of these buildings. They walk by them, they don't see inside of them. They don't see what happens. And if we could maybe reestablish that, we had more opportunities for job shadow days and to have employees of these companies be willing to kind of mentor kids, even on a one-on-one, 1 or 2 level, while we're handing off the baton, right? That soft handoff, right? That's the theme of the day.
Right. And building on that, we've talked a lot about older students today, but there are opportunities with younger students as well to help them understand what is beyond school for them, open up new worlds for them. Our financial literacy conversation is starting with elementary school students and helping them understand what are jobs in their community and beyond that they might be interested in. We have a really exciting project launching in the fall with WPS, shout out Anna, at Charlestown High School, focusing on 7th and 8th graders, again, at that beginning of that period where they're just beginning to ask themselves, who am I and who do I want to be in the world? Helping them understand how they direct their learning and connect the meaning that they find in the outside world to what they're learning in the classroom. So I think there's a lot more opportunity that we haven't tapped. And the last thing I would just say is we can say working with kids almost every day. They're wonderful people. Shout out Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And they do enrich your organizations. So we invite you to get to know them because they are absolutely worth it.
I'm happy to be job shadowed, Chris. If someone wants to see 8 Zoom calls a day. Very exciting work. Now, thank you all. That's all the questions I have for you, but I do want to leave about 10 minutes for those of you in the audience who want to chime in, hopefully with a question. I see your hand. Let's go to you over there, but please wait for the mic so that the folks on the live streaming can also hear you. Go ahead. Yeah. Can we hear?
No.
No.
Keep talking.
No. Use the mic so the live streaming can hear you, or someone get a different mic.
Oh, there we
There
go.
you
Okay. Hi, thank you guys. You're so great. I'm also a co-op student. Candace from the last panel said that I thought was really great, was just about hiring and how a lot of the organizations here don't necessarily just go for the candidate with straight A's who can write so well, because it's clear that that kid has already had the mentorship and the resources. And so maybe specifically for Chris, because it seems like you work with high school age the most, how do you meet kids where they are to help them get these opportunities and push them to meet thresholds for success while also not making them feel discouraged or judged? Just tips for that.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a lot. Okay, I'll start with the dual enrollment program, I guess, first. So our students are able to take dual enrollment classes at 5, and we've had some at Roxbury as well, and UMass Boston, so we've had students go over there. And one of the things we do is we allow the students to leave early a couple of days a week to go to their class. And the other days, I will support them, so we have little cohorts that are in the different classes. And another teacher and myself will support them in the different subject areas to make sure that they're passing their class. If the students are not passing their class, they don't get to leave on those days. So I'm trying to get them to embrace a college life and a college schedule. And one of the things I don't want is juniors and seniors to be in the building taking a class they've already taken 3 times again, because they've already taken all the requirements and their schedule doesn't allow for something else. So that's why dual enrollment in early college is so important. It gets them into the institutions and makes them feel like a college student. And then I enforce it by saying, if your grades aren't X, or at least passing with a C, then you don't get the carrot at the end of the stick, which is being able to leave early and either go to work or go home and nap before sports or whatever. So there has to be an incentive, and then there has to be someone who's willing to get angry a little bit if you're not doing your job, and you say it in the right way and put them back on the right path. And you got to be tough on them sometimes. They need nurturing, but they also need to be told, you took that seat from somebody else who could have taken it. We need to hold you to that standard. And then if you don't pass the class, you don't get to take another dual enrollment class next term. And they like leaving early and going off and sleeping and going to their jobs. So that helps. There has to be give and take here, and there has to be a little bit of enforcement. Why do detention?
If I could add, if I could also just add to that, right? So a while ago, there was a great study that came out that said basically like 2 of the biggest determiners of success is first and foremost student motivation, right? How much time on task do students spend? But second, how well do educational institutions allocate their resources to keep students engaged, right? And figure it out. And so another approach to this that we're employing is we don't want to leave anything up to chance. And we want to treat individuals as individuals. So we're creating it, basically this tapestry where we're weaving everything we possibly can around workforce development, around career preparation into our curriculum. So if you're taking an English class and you have to do persuasive writing, what we want you to do is a cover letter for a job into the career that you want to go into, right? And so meeting people where they're at and giving them opportunities. We'll have some self-guided modules for students to do kind of workforce readiness training and explore careers and so on and so forth. But then also us working with our faculty and taking those resources to say, hey, listen, like you're a part of this. You're very much a part of this. And the only way we're going to be successful is if we really leverage all the efforts that are out there to catch people, not just once if they come to my career services office, not just twice if they go into English and they're exploring particular career pathways for that, but we want to make sure that we have 5, 6, 7 different opportunities or touch points for students, so those who need that assistance as far as their writing or that encouragement around the writing can get it in a mechanism that really meets their individual need. So.
And I appreciate so much that you emphasize the relationship between the employer and the faculty as well as the employer and the student, because that's really important. Because what we're all really basically saying is it's high expectations and high support.
Yes,
You have to have both of them at the same time. And teachers are really expert at the high support part, but they often need support from the professionals in terms of what are those high expectations, what is industry standard,
Yep.
how do we make what we're teaching in the classroom more relevant both to the students and to what are employable skills. I'll give you one example. Entrepreneurship, not necessarily something that is in the forefront of the State Department of Education's education standards, but certainly a very important skill set to have in today's marketplace. And I never met a kid who wasn't interested in that, right? If you're interested in plumbing, if you're interested in fashion, if you need those entrepreneurial skills. You go to any high school in the city today and ask them how many of them have their own YouTube channel, right? Or their own side hustle.
Yep.
They're all interested in that. But our curriculum doesn't always meet that mark. So how do we connect employers to teachers so they can start embedding those more meaningful skill sets into what they teach every day?
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. We are unfortunately out of time, so I'm going to have to end it right here. But do stay behind. Our panelists are going to hang around a little bit. Come talk to them, meet them. A lot of important conversations and connections happen after the formal program is over. For now, I do want to thank you for your time and invite a round of applause for our awesome panelists. And as we all take our seats, I would like to invite Neil Sullivan, Executive Director of the Boston PIC, who will close us out.
Okay, my job is to get us out on time. Those who know me probably are thinking I'm the person least qualified to do that. So I want to thank the Boston Foundation and Tony and the whole team, as well as the team from the PIC, for making today happen. I want to thank Brian for flying out and laying out the case from an experienced business perspective. This is an economic imperative, not just an educational one. I want to thank all of you, as well as those of you who are watching on live stream. And then I want to thank our panelists. I've changed what I was going to say about 17 times over the past 90 minutes, and I realize I really want to have a follow-up conversation with each of you. What I really want to say is that I'm feeling two things that I desperately need to feel. People think I'm overly cognitive. No, I have feelings. I'm feeling hope and optimism. Why? I tend to think of the moment in the context of the long run, and I tend to think of 5-year cycles and what is to be done. It's not a coincidence that that crosses elections. And we are at the beginning of a 5-year cycle. It's undeniable. It was 5 years ago today that we were about 10 days into the pandemic, the 9/11 of modern times. And so we begin again. Today, we begin again. I'm feeling like maybe I'm getting beyond the recovery emotionally. And maybe there's a place for that hope and optimism that, working at the intersection of education and workforce development. By the way, deal with the metaphor, ever stand in the middle of an intersection? People don't understand why you're doing it because we think in our own ways about education and workforce development, yet hope and optimism, during this conversation, there was no boundary between the two. And I would add youth development, and I will add public safety. So what do we have here? We have this incredibly exciting time where we're connecting with the phrase career-connected learning. It seems to be one we all wear well because it views career not just as destination education, but as a context for learning and maybe an answer to the age-old question, why am I learning this? You know, I have my AMP wrap. Aspiration precedes motivation. And motivation is absolutely essential to performance. We cannot just demand performance from students or demand accountability from the adults who teach them. We have to inspire them. And there's no coincidence that aspire and inspire
are so close phonetically. Today, I started to hear us. I mean, Marcia has done such a job in advocating the advisory aspect of career connectedness, but now, when Ann's speaking, I hear us creeping into the classroom. We're talking curriculum here and not just vocational. We're talking industry-based, career exploration, learning as a way to meet our academic standards. Because it starts with aspiration, it motivates young people to perform academically, duh. Youth employment, we are in the glory days when it comes for paid opportunity for Boston teenagers. The mayor's summer jobs guarantee for BPS students worked. This is the first summer, and some of you know this is my 42nd, where we didn't have in August young people coming to the PIC office not employed, desperately looking for a paycheck before going back to school. It worked. And it is no coincidence that Boston is the safest city in the world. It is no coincidence. When I left City Hall in the 1990s, we were at 150 homicides. Last year, 2024, how many homicides in Boston? It's easy to remember, 24. 24. We're the safest city in America, and I know youth employment is an integral aspect of that, but we aspire to more. We aspire to skill development. We perhaps didn't talk about that enough. You know, in other forums we have such a naming problem, soft skills, durable skills. I tend to try to find a neutral word, transferable skills. Communication, collaboration, problem solving and critical thinking, work ethic, and creativity. What occupation or career do those skills not find valuable, empowering, ennobling? And we could do them anywhere. And yes, we got a ways to go in to integrate the workplace learning experience with the classroom experience to get teachers and workplace supervisors talking about skill development. Yes, but I see the way. And then a recognition of infrastructure, that there are gaps, but the gaps can be bridged, and that requires talented, skilled staff work. So let me end with this. What we have here, you know, we just spent 90 minutes and no one said MCAS. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's a new thing. It's a new thing. Because we stand at a rethinking moment for what we learn in order to succeed and how we learn it. And we get to revisit everything because this particular community is not coming from one place. We're coming from the community, we're coming from the employer side of the economy, we're coming from the education side of the economy, and we've got something to promote. Career-connected learning is beneficial for all, but essential for some. And those who are not succeeding are exactly the young men and women that need what we have to offer. So with that, have a good day and a good next 5 years.